I'm Tom from Do-It-Yourself Home Automation, and this is a look at the Vitamix Foodcycler. This is an appliance that kind of blows my mind. It's a device that actually will recycle your food scraps in your house. You put food scraps into it, and it's almost like a compost pile. Breaks down your food scraps, turns them into fertilizer, but it does it in about 5 to 8 hours instead of the several months it would take to use a traditional compost pile. And it does all of this in this little package. It's about 1.5 feet, I would say, maybe about 1 foot tall. Takes up just a little space on your countertop, or you could put it out in a garage. And again, it can break down all of your food scraps into a really nice, almost like compost for your plants. So let's go ahead and try this out. So we open it up on the top here. I've been using it a lot, so you can see there's a little residue. And it basically does this by heating and grinding the food scraps over a long time period. So we're gonna go ahead and just take this bucket out. It's super solid, non-stick coating on the inside. Obviously don't touch those blades down at the bottom there. And then we're gonna go and fill this with different food scraps. Okay, so here's the aftermath of breakfast in my kitchen. And you can handle any kind of organic food scraps, but if you're gonna use it for fertilizer, they recommend not using meat proteins or animal proteins like eggs. You can use egg shells though, I find that works fine. So let's just grab stuff. I've got these blackberries that fell out. This is the leftovers of an oat and chocolate bar. Some strawberries. Let's go in here. This bagel. Let's see, we've got our egg shells. So I'm gonna go ahead and add these. They recommend using a mix of different items for each batch that you run. Just like a mix of foods is healthier for you, a mix of different foods is healthier for the plants that you're gonna feed this fertilizer to. This clementine looks kind of old, so let's just chuck that in. They say not to use too many citrus fruits, but if you mix it with other things, it's fine. It's a good one. I got some coffee grounds here. That adds nitrogen into the soil, so good for plants. So dump those in as well. Now I've spilled some of these coffee grounds, so I'm just going to take this paper towel, clean that up, and then this paper towel is biodegradable, so that can just go straight into the Foodcycler as well. Got a flower here that's shedding a bit. No problem, throw that in. A little bit more of this leftover fruit. Okay, we're gonna fill this up to the fill line. You can see here, they say not to kind of mush the stuff down. You do wanna have enough room that the air can percolate through there. So this is a pretty good amount. You could probably put a bit more in, but this takes care of most of my breakfast food scraps. And we'll go back to the Foodcycler machine. You can see there's a little arrow on the side here. We're just gonna align the arrow there so that this drops down. The handle folds in. It's loaded into the machine now. Another thing to note, if you don't generate enough food scraps all at once to fill the bucket, you have this extra lid and you can keep the bucket out on your countertop. And this has a carbon filter, so you can put it on top and add to the bucket throughout the day. And this will keep the smells down and keep it covered, keep pests and flies and things out. I generate so much food scraps that I don't need this. Loaded that in. Now we're gonna go ahead and put the lid on. Okay, aligning these arrows, locking it in. And then it's super simple. We're just gonna press the power button. You can see that's about how much sound it makes. First it's gonna dry, then it's gonna grind, it's gonna cool down. Depending on the volume of food and the amount of liquid, it generally takes, I find usually about 4 to 8 hours, usually in about that 5-hour time frame for me. You may be wondering if this is heating all those scraps, isn't gonna kind of stink, make a lot of smell. And the answer is no. It actually has 2 carbon filters in the back here. And they do an awesome job, I find, of getting those odors out. So you can use this and you wouldn't even know that it was running, even if you're doing things like onions or garlic, really strongly scented things. I've processed those, no problem at all. And it just, you want to leave enough room that it's going to be able to vent the hot air out of the back there. So let me just let it run. When it gets into the grinding setting, you'll hear a little more noise, but honestly, it's not as loud as you'd expect. It's not like a Vitamix blender, very quiet overall. And we're just going to let this sit again for a couple of hours, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. So you can see this is what all of those food scraps get reduced down to. This very small amount of super dry compost, essentially. And you can add this into your plants as a supplement. So I got my flower pot. I can go ahead and just dump that right in. There we go, we'll mix it up. And there you have it. That'll do a great job adding some extra nutrients to my soil. I can keep doing that with all my food scraps and adding that and amending my soil, making it better over time. So that's how you can use the Vitamix Foodcycler. Thanks to Vitamix for sending me one to check out. And again, I think it's a pretty awesome technology for taking your food scraps and turning them into something you can use right in your own garden.